Welcome to the Father Alchemist. This is a show about karma, surrender, and transformation. It doesn't matter what you're struggling with. It could be motivation, money, vices of any kind, drugs, alcohol, porn, shopping, food, your health and fitness, family and kids, spirituality, your business, career, anything mind, body, spirit. The Father Alchemist is a show that will help you transmute and use all that pain to create the gold version of you, the best version of you. We're bringing in some of the top minds to give you a different perspective, to make you think, and most importantly, to help you change from the inside out and the outside in. The goal of the show is to give you support in your journey to becoming the best you in all areas of your life, so you can be proud of the individual you are and not held from being the greatest version of yourself. Please follow me at The Father Alchemist on Instagram and follow the show on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. If this show gives you value, a fresh perspective, if it makes you laugh or makes you think differently, please rate the show on your favorite podcast app, share it, like it, and subscribe. Your support means the world to me. Now let's make some magic happen.
A lot of people where I'm from don't make it out. I know that I'm blessed. It's a few L's and millions, so turn that loss to a check.
The whole world is like this highlight reel, I think, right? And we're all, and it's leading to depression. It's leading to suicide. It's leading to I'm not good enough. And it's really, from what I'm seeing, man, it's leading to a lot of, it's just leading to a bad place for a lot of people. And so I think what people are craving, man, is connection.
Yeah.
And I think they're craving wisdom. We've got too much information. It's so much we don't know, I'm like, who do I pay attention to? How do I trust if it's real, right? So that's how this idea was born. And really, my hope is that we can share with the world, and really the people that are out there that are sitting in a job that they hate, right? Or maybe they enjoy it, but they're going, man, like I make 50 grand a year, but how do I make 100? That would change my life. Or I'm making 100, how do I make 250? I'm making $500,000, how do I make 7 figures?
Yeah.
So it's for that entrepreneur that really wants to take things to the next level for themselves within their own job, or start a side hustle and grow it.
Yeah.
And so I think the idea is we get rid of the armor, we take off the masks, and we just be fucking real, dude.
Totally.
And we share that shit with the world. And I think that's what people are looking for. People need some hope right now. And so you're going to give it to them. How's that feel?
Yeah. I'll do my best.
Well, dude, you walked in and the first thing I noticed is the bolo tie. You've got the matching watch, which I love. Tell me a little bit about that. Is that like I kind of think Johnny Cash.
Yeah.
Right? You ever seen that movie, Walk the Line?
I have.
Yeah.
I like Joaquin Phoenix a lot, actually.
Dude, he's so awesome.
Good.
Well, do you remember in that, there's a scene where they're like, you're always dressed in all black, man. It looks like you're going to a funeral. And he's like, well, maybe I am. Yeah. So I noticed that.
He's great.
Then what I saw the boot, and I had forgotten that you hurt your leg. What happened?
Stress fractures. It was weird. I can't think of an actual point in time where I did something to it, but I think over the course of the last couple of years, and I was living in Maui and barefoot a lot of the time. So maybe that played a little part of it, but I just had these smaller breakages in my two outside metatarsals, and it's been such a pain to heal them up. It's been 3 months. I've been in and out of the boot and back in the boot into regular shoes. I went snowboarding on Monday. There's with broken metatarsals. Well, you got to push through. And
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the overall theme of this podcast is life's going to throw at you all sorts of obstacles. And I think it's important to yes, take your time to try and heal them. But at a certain point, you can't just let the weakness take over. You got to be strong again and push through and let the healing process is going to happen no matter what. Right. Obviously it'd be nice if it happens quickly. But you can't let it take you out of your things that you enjoy doing. So
It's a good point, man. I think a lot of people, they get hit with something in their life and it just sort of keeps them stuck.
Yeah.
Right. And at least for myself, I've been in both places, right? I've been in the place where it's taken me out, right? Like, dude, I used to be the worst emotionally, like,
Yeah.
especially with women.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it would be a breakup. And for whatever reason, dude, it would take me out, man.
Yeah.
Like, it was like a month or two, I am just a crybaby, you know, like,
exactly.
And it sucked. It sucked. And thank God I did some work and got past that. But how long were you in Maui for?
From November 2021 until July of 2023.
Where are you from originally?
Parker, Colorado.
What?
Yeah.
Well, shit, I was just telling James we're doing an open house in Parker today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, 1.8.
Nice.
So it should be should be a good open house to do.
Whereabouts in Parker?
Yeah. I don't know where it is.
Someplace.
The address is in my calendar and I'll just go.
If it's a Parker 1.8, that means it was bought, 10 years ago for $600,000.
Yeah, no kidding. I know, man. I know. I'm excited to see it. The pictures that I've seen look pretty awesome. Like, maybe it's a new build or it was at least renovated, but yeah, it looks like a pretty sweet place. So you grew up in Parker.
Yep, grew up in Parker.
What about you? Is your family from Parker as well?
Yep, so my family lives in a neighborhood called Pradera in Parker.
Yeah.
It's kind of a newer neighborhood, borders Parker and Franktown.
Okay.
Really nice. My dad was actually the principal of Ponderosa High School, the high school over there for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was athletic director for a while, then vice principal, and then principal. He retired after 33 years. I joke that he graduated because he finally made it out of high school. But
what was that like growing up with a dad that, was in education?
It's funny because I have a lot of friends who had parents in education, and there was always, they walk this line of like, it's okay, but she's there all the time. And my dad and I have a really special relationship. He's always been so great to me, and his office was more a place for me to like come hang out and my friends to come hang out during the day where they could have real conversations with somebody who would treat them not like a child, but like an adult. He was also the wrestling coach there. So I wrestled for a lot of my life. We hold the state championship consecutive record still.
At the school?
Mm-hmm.
In Parker?
Yep.
Really?
So we won 8 state championships in a row in wrestling. So we won all 4 years when I was there, and that team still holds the record for the most won in a row in the state.
Good job, man. That's huge, by the way. Wrestling is intense, man.
Yeah.
Like, I've never done it. I've done martial arts, but never wrestling. Did you ever end up getting into like jiu-jitsu or anything? Or
So growing up, we had to do these things called like Grappler's Edge during the off season and sometimes during the season, and they were like Brazilian jiu-jitsu sort of like grappling classes, and that was just to become a better wrestler overall. There wasn't UFC when I was in high school. It wasn't like I'm going to become a wrestler so that I can get in the octagon.
Yeah, no.
That came afterwards. So we always joked you couldn't even be a pro wrestler. Like people are like, when you're going to play football, you have a career waiting for you if you're really good, but if you're wrestling, you just got bad knees waiting for you.
Yeah. Hey, dude, did you see the Iron Claw movie?
No.
That just came out? You know who Zac Efron is?
Wait,
right?
my dad saw that. He was telling me all about it. They went to see it in the theater.
We had some guests over last week at the house, and and I like Zac Efron. I think he does a lot of good work, right? But I think he's had this image of like a kind of high, like this heartthrob. Wasn't he a Disney guy or something? Anyway, dude, this guy is ripped, man.
yeah.
I mean, it is crazy. And it was a phenomenal movie, but it was about the Von Erich brothers. And I don't know if you know their story, but they called it The Curse of the Von Erichs, right? And I don't want to spoil the movie, but it's good. You should watch it, especially if you're into wrestling. I think you'll like it.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've stepped on a mat. I probably think the last time I stepped on a mat was honestly like senior year of high school, like at the Pepsi Center at the state final tournament. I just like put my shoes away and I was like, I'm moving to Breckenridge.
Yeah.
So I did move.
Okay. So Parker to Breckenridge.
Well, Parker Greeley. After I did a semester at UNC, wasn't for me. Then I transferred to CMC in Breck, and I lived there for a couple years. Did the whole like night college and worked for Keystone Resort. I was a big snowboarder.
Oh yeah.
So
Keystone.
yeah, so I've spent a lot of time up there, and then went up to CSU and graduated from there.
Cool, man. What'd you get a degree in?
Human development and family studies. So I actually wanted to be a counselor. Or I wanted to be like a marriage counselor, divorce therapist, something like that. I come from a divorced family, but my parents got divorced when I was 4, and we still celebrated every holiday together with both sides of family, every birthday, every Christmas. We did everything together as a unit with 2 families. And I was growing up, they're like, that's so rare that you get to have that and your parents don't hate each other. And I was like, how can I like leverage this into helping people who are in this situation? So that's what I went to school for. It's funny enough, I didn't end up being a counselor for any of that. I ended up going in the music industry and becoming like a band manager, which is like a glorified counselor for a different kind of thing. So yeah, exactly. A professional cat herder. So yeah.
So you were in Rome, that's where you kind of skiing or snowboarding?
Snowboarding.
Yeah. So snowboarding, I'm sure you've had some injuries,
Yeah.
right? Then Maui.
Breck, Fort Collins, and then I was on the road for about 8 years with the rock band that I managed. I didn't move to Maui
Can
until
you say that?
Papadocio.
Papadocio.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we've done Red Rock shows a few times.
Yeah.
They're a pretty big band, considerably. And then I also managed some smaller producers. Random Rab, probably the biggest known one.
Okay.
Really good. He plays in Denver a lot. And that was a fun industry for sure. Definitely lots of traveling, lots of
drugs.
parties. Yeah, lots of like festivals and just like that whole scene. Which, I used to call myself a professional partier. Where like I just threw the parties.
Yeah.
I get to throw a party for 10,000 people. So I get to.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I mean, Red Rocks holds 10,000 people,
Right.
so we would throw those shows, and
Got it.
I mean, we played Bonnaroo for 60,000. I mean, so there's Electric Forest for 40,000. Lots of people at these festivals, and it's such a good vibe. It's hard to beat. And I had a great time. I worked for a management company out of Denver called End It Management, and we did management for like Soundtribe Sector 9, like STS9, the Polish ambassador, Michael Menert, The Works. And I got all into that through a nonprofit called the Conscious Alliance, which is based out of Boulder. So they do like food drives for music festivals. And if you donate 10 cans of food, you get a poster for the event. All the food gets donated to the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation in South Dakota. They built a huge kitchen up there. I was part of a skate park project with vans. We built a whole skate park up there. So I had I got into that through my major in college because I worked with a lot of kids and did a lot of nonprofit work. And so for my senior thesis, I was like, I'm going to jump on the road and kind of do some stuff to help support the Native Americans. And that's how I got in the music industry. So it's kind of just all very serendipitous how it happened. Like, I'm not a music business major. I just love music and I love people, and kind of and I'm a hard worker. So I found myself into kind of that world.
Yeah. I want to go back for a second
to
the divorce.
Yep.
Because I come from a divorced family as well. And I think, it was very traumatic. Like, myself and my brother were involved in seeing an act that, I won't go into detail here, but it was a horrible experience. And, but I also, at the time, I had kind of convinced myself that, man, like, shit happens, and just, people, however I ended up with that narrative or that story is I guess a question for another day. But for you, what was that like at the time? And did it affect you? Has it affected you later, where you're realizing now that you're a little older that, hey man, that might have caused some trauma or
it's hard. I'm a pretty big realist. When you say that you come from a divorced family, I come from a divorced family, my wife comes from a divorced family, all my best friends come from divorced families. It's more apparent now more than ever that like it just happens. And so I think there's a couple ways that like I learned how to cope with that. And I think one of them is like responding instead of reacting. Like when I'm faced with a situation, you can let your emotions just go right away, and let's call the reaction, right? Or you can take a minute to kind of let things sink in and develop a response. Reactions happen a lot quicker. They're a lot harder to control. Responses, you can develop them yourself. So this sucks. How are you going to respond to it? Take a second to think about it. Don't just like be like, oh, fuck you. You're like, this is the worst. So, I mean, I think that I developed from a young age, but my parents did a really good job. Like, and I know now that there's things that went down that I was 4, so I wasn't super able to kind of perceive things and, think about them and judge them, whatever. But shit does happen. It's going to keep happening.
For sure.
So
For
I
sure.
think it's more like when it does happen, how do we respond to it? And do we let it destroy us or do we let it make us stronger?
Dude, I love that. I want to go back to that for a second
Yeah.
because when I first met my wife, my now wife, at the time she was not my wife,
Yeah.
I had just finished doing a bunch of work on myself, and I had learned that, I think for me anyway, I thought that I had to like respond right away, or it was a reaction that I wasn't in control of my emotions at all. And so I had just done that work though. So when I met my wife, she would get pissed off. Like she's like, dude, I'm saying something to you and you're sitting there. And I mean, I would sit there for 2 minutes, 10 minutes, and just sit with it and not react or respond. And I kind of had to explain to her, here's why I do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because before I used to it was the first thing, it was emotionally charged. And a lot of times it would affect and hurt other people.
Yeah.
Right? And I never intended that to happen. It was just sort of like, I feel this and I'm going to say it. I'm going to let you know how I think about what you just said. And walk me through that process for you. Like when you hear something from somebody and what you have to go through mentally to stop yourself, and then how you formulate those thoughts to come back later with a response that's not emotionally charged, that's been thought through a little bit.
For sure. And it's something that I'm not a pro at right now by any means, but that I've learned to do. And a lot of it is just, meditation and being able to sit with things. I get really uncomfortable with things sometimes, and that's what causes reactions. But being able to develop a practice where, for me, it's in the steam room every morning. I'll go work out every morning and I'll sit in the steam room, and that's where I can put my thoughts, kind of get them out and rearrange them. You know what I mean? And it's very quiet in there. And I think
Meditate and steam room.
Well, I do it together because I wish I had
You
more
meditate in the
hours.
steam
I
room.
wish I had more hours in the day to just
Yeah.
meditate and then go work out and take a steam. But I kind of combine them because it's only so many hours in the day before we got to get
How
going.
long
And
are you in the steam room meditating for?
45 minutes.
5 minutes? Good for you.
Yeah, until I get too hot and I can't concentrate anymore.
Have you tried the cold plunge?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I love the cold plunge. Yeah. So
Tell me about that, man.
I used to have one, but I don't have one anymore because we're in Castle Rock in a new house. But it's great. I used to love to do it every morning. Just wake up, cold plunge before I go to the gym. So my goal is ideally in a perfect world, before 9 a.m. I'd have put my body through 2 crazy different temperature changes. One that's so cold, then work out, and then be really hot at the end.
Okay.
So you're already putting a bunch of stress on your body.
First, then hot. Do you know if there's any science with that, like the order in which you do them?
So I know that post-workout, not jumping into a cold plunge afterward can make your muscles kind of shrink a little bit and not let them kind of develop into being bigger. So cold plunge pre-workout is better for you than post as far as strength training goes. Shout out to Andrew Huberman for that.
It's funny as I was listening to an interview of Huberman and Rogan.
Oh, yeah.
And they were talking, and Rogan calls him out on the cold plunge.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because Huberman's on there talking about the cold plunge, and Joe's like, okay, what temperature and how long?
Yeah.
And he's, I think it's at least 3 minutes, but not more than 6 or whatever he's saying, right? And then the temperature needs to be, I think it was 38 degrees or something. And so Joe asks him, he goes, well, what temperature do you have it at? And he goes, I think mine's at 50.
Yeah.
And Joe's like, what? Dude, that's not. So he kind of called him out, on the podcast, but.
Their whole lives to get Andrew Huberman on a podcast to call him out because he's the smartest guy ever.
I know.
Talking about those long form podcasts, and it was interesting. I was listening to Tim Ferriss, who's another podcast host. I really enjoy his stuff, and he was talking about just the different sort of podcast styles and why Huberman and Rogan are so successful, and their the YouTube algorithm brings them to the top so much. And it's because these long form, 3 hour long people watch the entire thing. And it's so rare. They're like the unicorns. People don't watch 3 hour things on their TV ever, but they'll put those podcasts on YouTube and watch it on their TV. it's crazy to me, but
Dude,
I find myself doing the same thing.
I saw
on
on
like
YouTube
Spotify.
Huberman on ketamine.
Oh yeah.
So I watched, and it was like it was some crazy amount of time, and I'm just like, holy crap! Like first of all, I had no idea that there was all this to it.
Yeah.
Right. But he made it interesting. Like I hung in there and watched the whole thing.
Well, people are very interested about
Yeah.
ketamine right now, and it's because it's making its way through all the therapeutic settings, and just there's a lot of people who have a lot of great stories about it. I myself have a lot of terrible stories about friends and ketamine, but to each their own. And I think as long as it's helping people, then there's a space for it. There's a space for everything, but things are too easily abused these days too. So yeah,
It's a tough topic, right? Because I understand the one side of it where it's like, man, legalize everything because now you can control it. You don't have a bunch of people dying because they're not sure what they're getting. You can tax the hell out of it, use a lot of that revenue to do something good. The other side to it, though, is now you might open yourself up to people that go, oh, shit, cocaine's legal now, and maybe they're going to be willing to try it. Whereas before they wouldn't because the barrier to get it, like they're not the type of person that's going to go down a dark alley to get it, kind of a thing, right? But now that it's legal, maybe it creates more addicts. And I don't know. What do you think?
I don't know. It's interesting. Like I've done a lot of traveling through like Oregon in the last couple of years, and Oregon legalized everything. And it's kind of a nightmare down there. It's not like a place where you can go buy things like that at a store.
Portland, you mean?
Yeah. And it's just like it's sad to see. And I think there's a difference between things like fentanyl and things like a party drug like cocaine, right? It's like, I don't think that either of them are good for you, but there's a time and place like where you could probably use cocaine. And it's hard to think of a time and place outside of a medical setting where fentanyl would be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm not advocating do a party or whatever, but like it's out there and that's what's happening and that's kind of how it's been. But like the whole fentanyl thing is just scary to see, and growing up and like I'm 34, my birthday was on Wednesday. We lived through the whole opioid and like I had friends that went from, having surgery to like being addicted to heroin and having to go to rehab. And it's like terrifying. It's like, holy moly, that happens so fast. So things like this can get out of hand really quickly. And we're just kind of, I don't know. I used to walk around and say, if it feels good, do it. And then I really retracted that statement because things got out of hand quickly with a lot of people that I was close with. So, yeah.
You started to see how it affected you.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy in the music industry. It's easy to get like taken down a road with those things because it's like your everyday life. Like you're at a concert every day. Like I was at concerts every day. So, but that's not the real world. It's just a real world. It's a world that we live in, and it becomes work and it becomes who you are and just all these things. And then all of a sudden COVID happens and you're not going to any concerts for 2 years. And you're like, what do I do with my time?
This is like, how was I, 20 or 21, and I was in the car business at the time, and I met this dude that had been the tour manager for Poison.
Oh, nice.
For years, right? And so then I got out of the car business, but I maintained a friendship with this guy, and great guy. Like he's the type of guy that like just everybody loves this dude. Oh yeah, I know so and so. Like everybody knew him, right? Very well connected. But then he started touring with them again. Right. And I got to go to some like awesome shows like in LA backstage, not backstage like where the VIPs hang out, but like on the stage with Bobby Dahl hanging out as he's rocking out and freaking pyrotechnics are going off. And, but I don't think it's a secret that those guys were into drugs. And so Rick, he would share some stories about, how he would have that shit shipped, to him. And, I think for a lot of people, it's like just this fascinating, mysterious world where it's like, how are these guys getting all the drugs?
Yeah. Are you asking?
Yeah. Like, is it, are they being shipped in? Are they docs? Or is it just like friends that they make that happen to be dealers? Or
I guess you're talking about a different zone of the industry because the bands that I work for were not at Poison level where they're doing stadium tours and doing stuff like that. Like we were playing Cervantes, you know, and like places like Red Rocks is one of the biggest shows we did all year long.
Yeah, but that's a big show.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, and also it depends on the band. Like the bands that I managed were not like super hardcore drug users.
Okay.
You know, they're artists, artists true and true, and they love coming to smoke weed in Colorado when things were getting legalized and stuff like that. Like that was, you know, a really big deal. But, you know, mostly it's like we have a group of people that the same 1,000, 2,000 people follow the band pretty much everywhere they go, right? And those people definitely have some hookups in them, and you know, we all know each other, we see each other everywhere. So if you want it, you can go get it, but it's not like we're, you know, we have to have it shipped to the next spot in order to make the show happen. You know,
I think when I was younger, I read the book. God, I can't think of the name right now, and I can't even think of the band, but it was a big band where they were known for like drug use, and it'll come to me. But I think that reading that book about this band, super famous band, as soon as I think of it, everybody will remember who they are. But
is it Motley Crue?
Motley Crue, that's it. Yeah. What was the book? It's funny that you know it.
I think I know what you're talking about.
What the hell was the name of the book? It was about like their journey with drugs from start to finish. And I think I read that at an impressionable age. So I just kind of thought like, oh, that's just the music industry, right?
Yeah.
But I guess not. It's nice to know that it's not.
It's changed a lot, right? The music industry that Motley Crue, Poison are from is way different than like the music industry now. Like TikTok back then.
No.
To people with guitars back then.
Right.
People like, you know, we watched the Grammys and there's not a single instrument like God played the entire time, and you're like, okay, well, this is just the pop Grammys. And like, I'm a big Taylor Swift fan, so is my wife.
Okay.
And so I'm happy to see that she won, but it's like almost like so fabricated that it's hard for me to watch because there's so many great musicians out there and there's so many good bands out there, and like they hardly get the time of the day with the Billboard 100 and kind of how things are measured and made in the industry that we're in right now. So, you know, bands are going away. You know, like the more and more music that becomes popular, the less and less live musicians are going to be out there. You know, shout out to like Goose, who's my favorite band right now. They're great, and they're, you know, kind of keeping the jam scene alive right now. So if you haven't heard of them, give them a listen. They're pretty good. Yeah, they're playing Fiddler's Green June 6th and 7th.
So what about you?
You were into Taylor Swift. Yeah. I honestly, like, you know, I know good music when I hear it, and she's got some really catchy things, and she's a true artist, songwriter too. So
it's amazing to see her, how she's blown up, right? Over the last 10 years, really 5. I feel like in the last 5 years, she's just gone to a whole nother level.
For sure, the last tour that she did was just out of control. It was like the biggest tour ever.
Yeah, was tour. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I mean, she's bringing economies to life like everywhere she goes. It's just like the governor wrote her a letter saying thank you. Like, you know, that doesn't happen.
Yeah, no,
yeah,
that's amazing, man.
Yeah.
So you've been in the music scene. You grew up in a family that your dad was an educator, and your mom?
So my mom did a few things. She was in like a brand sort of vibe for a while. She worked at some golf courses. Like she worked at Cherry Creek Country Club. She worked at Cherry Hills. Okay. She was running pro shops and stuff like that. Golf's a huge part of my family's life as well. And then she ended up buying a pasta company and starting a pasta company. So Pasta More is the name of it, and you can find us in like every farmer's market in Colorado. My brother runs the company now. My mom passed away a few years ago. Okay. So he took that over, and they do like barrel-aged balsamic vinegars, garlic-infused olive oils, and handmade pasta, gluten-free and regular, all around the state. So that's cool. And so I gotta really dive into the sales atmosphere. When I was younger, I worked a lot of farmers markets. So a lot of setup, face-to-face sales all day, developing your pitch, what works, what not, you know, with my best friends, all kind of, you know, barefoot in Vail selling pasta.
Yeah. So it seems like your family goes through this divorce. Do you have any brothers and sisters?
Yeah, I have one brother who's older, and then I have a little sister as well, who's like, I guess, my half sister. She's 11 years younger.
So family of 3, same with me. come from a divorced family, and then sounds like you traveled quite a bit. How long were you in Hawaii?
2 years. So 2021 to 2023.
So I'd love to hear about a moment in your life where you've had that sort of dark place, what that was like, what it was, what you went through, and like, how did you come out on the other end of it? And while it was happening, what was the mindset? And what are the little daily things you did to like either keep your mind off of it or to like let that sink in and experience it, but you got through it?
You know, I think like a lot of people answer this question the same. Like COVID was one of the hardest times of my life, specifically because I thought I was aligned with the career that I'd be doing for forever. You know, I was in the music industry. I was 10 years in at that point, really felt like I was really gaining traction as far as, you know, seniority and respect goes and everything that you want your career to be, like an upward trajectory. Then COVID happens, and you know, not only do we just press delete on the entire annual income, just okay, every show that you're playing, you know, your income, because we in the music industry make money when the band plays. Like we're not selling a bunch of songs to YouTube or to Netflix or anything like that. I mean, we obviously tried, but there's a very minimal amount of money coming in from stuff like that. So I basically had to rethink, like, okay, how am I I want a family. I want to marry my girlfriend at the time, and how do I even accomplish that when everything just got swept up from underneath me? That was hard because I didn't know what we were going to do. So during that time, and this is kind of going back to like, okay, the super depressing, didn't know what I was going to do. So I used that time to get my real estate license. You know, I had a friend who was in real estate and really liked it. And he was my best friend growing up, still is my best friend today. And he was like, you know, get your license and you can sell some houses. Like the market's really heating up right now and interest rates are crazy. And, you know, I'd always wanted to buy a house. Sales is something I loved. And so I was like, okay, I had all this time on my hands. No music was happening and we were doing some online shows and stuff, but it was really just paying the bills for them. And so I just put in all my, you know, depression and anger and uncertainty into learning something new. And, you know, that got me to a place where I felt that I had a trajectory that I could believe in that depended on nobody but myself. And that's one thing about the music industry that was a little bit hard for me sometimes, is like that your income and how good you do is really dependent on how good your artists do, how hard they want to work. So I was always like, you know, I want to work so hard, but if I want to work hard, then, you know, I should be able to go upwards in the trajectory of my career, my business, and not feel like, you know, the band doesn't want to tour, then it goes down. Or if they want to, you know, they're having kids and want to enjoy their families, and it's like, okay, cool. Like in my world, that means that I have to find something else to do in the meantime to like fill in that gap. So there was a lot of things that like really, really were hard during COVID. But again, you know, how are you going to respond to these actions when they happen? I could have sit around and tried to apply to every single tax relief fund out there and every single grant possible and just kind of wait it out. But that's not who I am. I was like, okay, I need to get another skill set right now.
When that was going on, man, like when you were feeling that fear, that uncertainty, you just lost your source of income, your business, everything you'd known for a long time, man. You know, I think a lot of people have been there. What was that like were you married yet?
No, not yet.
Your girlfriend? So there's probably a sense of like, dude, what kind of a man am I? All that negative self-talk, like how am I going to provide, right? Like I'm going to ask this girl to marry me, but shit, like what do I do? What was like mentally, what were you thinking in the darkest moment of that fear? And then do you remember the moment and somehow you snapped out of it? Not snapped out of it, but like where you had a new perspective? Or was it a gradual, like was there anything you were doing that changed, like physically maybe, that changed how you were thinking, or was it just a serendipitous call from a buddy that, is like, dude, get your real estate license?
Yeah.
But what was that thinking like at the time when you were in that dark place?
I mean, for a long time, I felt like I wasted 10 years of my life in the music industry.
Okay.
I felt like I was just so like, okay, cool. I just did all this. I thought I was going somewhere, and I'm nothing. I'm nowhere where I thought I would be. I have a lot of friends and a lot of memories that are amazing, but like, what did that give me now, besides having to start over? So a lot of really thinking that I made a lot of the wrong choices when I was younger, even though they felt so right at the time. It's like you fell into this dream of like, I thought I was going to be the next manager of like Pink Floyd. Like, that's really what I thought. And the band itself, the band Papadozzi, was amazing. You know what I mean? And I literally do think that they can do great things, but it just didn't end up like that. So, a lot of doubt, a lot of self-doubt. And I would say, so a lot of the things that I used to do physically, I do a lot of yoga. So core power yoga, I met my wife there. I was a cleaner there when I was like 24, I was cleaning there for a free membership. That's where I met my wife. And I mean, to date, I've probably done almost 2,000 hours of yoga. And have these mantras that I would say to myself, which is, just release self-doubt, quit doubting yourself, quit like telling yourself this story that you're not good enough and that you made all these wrong decisions, because in reality, it brought you to this thought process, and just the fact that you're thinking about becoming better is a step in the right direction. So, don't get me wrong, like depression is still part of everything every day that I deal with, just is what it is. And I think that goes into what you were saying at the beginning. It's more prevalent now. There's a lot of things that can bring you down as quickly as they can bring you up, especially with like Instagram and so much access to news all the time. And it's easy to feel terrible, make yourself feel really bad.
Is there anything that triggers you in particular? And are there any like destructive habits that like you found yourself moving in that kind of direction at the time?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you say that, because when I see bands that I used to work for doing really well, that triggers me a lot. I feel like
envious?
Yeah, I feel like I made the wrong choice by leaving the music industry. And this happened to me on Saturday. I went to a concert on Saturday at the Mission Ballroom with the band that I used to work for. And it was sold out, and the vibes were really great. And, I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, I could have been a part of this. Then I called up their manager, and we had a little 30-minute conversation there, and he's like, don't worry, dude, it's the same old bullshit that it was. I needed that validation. So
it's like perception is everything, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes we think that things are one way, and like my wife and I talk about this all the time. It's like, we will talk about individuals that we admire, respect, or look up to, but she'll remind me, because I think the way I put them on a pedestal sometimes and go, man, like that's the life I want, right? And she'll kind of bring me back to reality a little bit and say, dude, they've got their own shit. You just don't see it.
Yeah.
Right? Like everybody does. And so you went through like self-doubt and, and I think that like, man, did I make the right decision? Shit, dude, I had that conversation in my head for probably a year when I left a previous company to come where I'm at now, right? It's like, dude, did I make the right decision? Because everything's different. It's a total new skill set, new people that I'm interacting with. But I left something I was so comfortable with, even though I knew at the time. There's a reason I left, right? But it's like, I think that's human nature. We just, God, did we make the right decision? And is there a lesson in that you learned after kind of going back and forth and then talking to your buddy who's like, dude, it's the same old shit?
Yeah, well, it's funny because I think that like I made a lot of changes over the past 5 years of my life. Moving to Maui, was that the right decision? I'd moved basically right when the market was like really good here and I was doing really well. But I had an opportunity out there and I was like, I'm not one to just not take an opportunity to go live in Maui for 2 years. Now, should we have bought a house and did everything that we did? Maybe. Who knows? We'll see when, the insurance or when our house gets rebuilt in 5 to 10 years. But like, I doubt a lot of decisions I made, but I think at the end of the day, that doubt will always be there. And it's about taking that doubt and creating something new that's another building block for your life. That's why when our house burned down in Maui, running through all the insurance stuff with our insurance provider, I'm like, I'm uncomfortable knowing or not knowing as much about this as I should. So what I got to get my insurance licenses, because I don't want that feeling to ever happen again, where I feel unprepared for what your coverages are. What does this stuff all mean, right? Because when you sign, and I have buyers right now, it's like they're buying houses, and what does the insurance mean? Like, do you even know what your coverages are? Mm-hmm. I just signed before, and I was like, great, we're getting a house, And now it's like I have an opportunity to explain to my buyers what the coverages mean. And here's a quote: go shop it around with everyone that you know and see if they can get a better price, because every insurance provider is different. Like rates are crazy right now with all the hail claims and everything happened over the summer. So, I think taking those opportunities where you're experiencing that self-doubt and using it to build another level to your business and to your life and to what you can bring your clients and just family, friends, anybody, that's what it's all about, is turning that weakness into strength. How can you do that? And that's really been the theme of my life. Is my goal is to become unbreakable, like mentally, physically, everything I can do to be able to provide all of my clients with the best service possible and have an answer for every question they have. And if I don't have that answer, know somebody who does. So that's kind of the overall goal. And it's like, is that through insurance? Is that through real estate? Is that through music? It really doesn't matter to me. It's all part of the same answer to me. It's professional Jake. That's I want my friends to be able to come with me with any of those questions, which is why I still do some consulting in the music business, because I did it for so long.
Yeah. I think, man, like, that's what's up, dude.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, they struggle with how to convert that moment in time into an advantage, right? If they think about it that way. And it's cool to see that you've had these experiences, man, where you've done that and come out on the other side of it. So, bro, I appreciate you being here. I feel like we know each other on a deeper level, right? But this is just like scratching the surface. So, man, thanks for being on the show, dude. And love to have you back sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me out. Really
brother.
And keep up the good work.
Thanks, bro.
Turn that loss to a check. Every time that I see a limit, I push right past it. Don't care if you got here first. The one to win is the last one standing. Say my life is like luck. Nah.